Just kidding, it's me. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Jill Poo 3 here. Today in real life, it is actually Friday the 13th, and it's in October, so it's kind of like a mini Halloween. Hope I didn't scare you too much. Everyone that knows me knows that I just love the 80s, everything about it. 80s music, 80s movies, 80s TV shows, 80s toys, 80s video games, right? And a grave injustice has happened. I have never seen Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was like, how could this have happened? This is just insane. Because they were both huge in the 80s. And so this year, I'm going to right that wrong. And I downloaded all of them. And I have so far seen every single Friday the 13th, except for one. The very last one I have not seen yet, which I'll probably watch tonight, because it's fitting. So I want to just do kind of an overview. I had trouble picking which one to watch, and there was fewer Elm Street, so I thought, well, let me do the long one first, and we'll just go through it. And like I said, I've never seen any of them before. They were all brand new, and there's something special about watching something for the very first time brand new, because the next time you watch it, it's more of like a memory, like try to remember what happened instead of, ooh, I had no idea what was going to happen next, kind of thing. And these movies they were huge, like I said, and I'm sorry I missed the fandom. I was just too young, I guess, at the time. Yeah, in 1980 I was too, so that's why I missed it. But I'm catching up. I am catching up. And I'm a little bit sick right now. But that's not going to stop me from doing this review. And it's just like a mini Halloween. Have to kind of spill stuff everywhere. Okay, so spoiler alert. If you have not seen the Friday the 13th series, there will be spoiler alerts in this throughout. I don't know if I actually have to say that because it is like 40 plus years old. So, but anyway, I am saying it because I am courteous like that. So, and you saw my Halloween costume for this year. I thought it was fitting, so I got it. Cheers, everybody. Okay. Thanks for joining me. This is going to be fun. So the very first one, Friday the 13th, Part 1, came out in 1980. Is that right? Sorry, I didn't look over my notes before I started. In fact, I didn't take notes at all, by the way. I probably should in a lot of my videos. I just don't. But that's what makes them great, right? That's what makes them award-winning. No one's going to watch them anyway, so it doesn't matter. Alright, the very first one came out in 1980. It's funny to watch the progression of, like, special effects and the camera work and the camera, just everything. It's really cool to see how it progresses throughout the years. And you can tell that the budget gets higher as they go. It gets more, the franchise gets more well-known. The very first one started out in Camp Crystal Lake, and where Jason, drowns and comes back to kill everybody. And it's funny because the entire cast dies in every movie. And then the next movie comes out, there's a brand new cast of 10 new people, and everyone dies in the next one. So I'm not mad at that. I guess they couldn't really keep the same cast from one movie to the next. And aside from Jason himself, there's not really a whole lot that connects the storyline or the locations. I feel like every movie is in like a different spot. So that's kind of funny. Just wanted to point that out. I am a fan of it. I will be watching them again. I did really enjoy them. But the first one, like I said, there's there's not really a lot of famous people in this series that I know of. I know the very first one has Kevin Bacon in it, and he's in a red Speedo, which is funny. But I was like, is that Kevin Bacon or is that someone else? He was so young I couldn't even tell. And then at the very end of it, in the credits, I was like, oh, it is Kevin Bacon. That's funny. And then I think it was either part 2 or part 3 had, oh crap, what's his name? Corey Feldman is in it. And those are the only 2 people in the whole series that I recognized. Literally, no one else. Which is funny. And it's funny because Corey Feldman, we'll get to him later. We're still on the first one. The first one, there were boobies in, which is good. Some reason to watch it. And I don't know, it was really good. There was a lot of really cool camera shots. There was one camera shot where he killed her and the feet were going down the stairs, like they were just drooping in a weird kind of way. I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool shot. And there's another shot where like they used the lake to reflect a lot of it, in. That was pretty cool. Part 2, a few of these do match up, the part and the year. But part 2 came out in 1981. Part 2 again was Camp Crystal Lake, like a different part of it. And some of these I might be getting a little bit wrong, but I didn't take notes and I was trying to go off memory. And the good news is next year I can rewatch them and they'll all seem new, pretty much. Part 2, there was one scene where the chick goes into the lake and you can see Bush. And then the very next scene, they're sitting in a bar and there's Bush beer on draft. And I had to point that out because that was just, I noticed that right away and I was like, oh, Bush beer on draft, that'd be amazing. So from one scene to the next, it's Bush back to back. So if you take nothing out of this whole video, next time you watch part 2, notice the Bush to Bush back to back scene because that's worth noticing, for sure. And I'll just go ahead and drink to that also. I will say this is my first time using a separate monitor behind the camera, so I can actually see what I'm filming for the first time ever. So that's pretty cool. I know you can't see it, but I'm enjoying it. Okay, when part 2 started, it was like a flashback to the first one. And it was incredibly long. Like it was, like normally you think of a flashback, you think of like 15, 20, maybe 30 seconds. This was like a 5-minute flashback and I was like, dang. That's a little weird. Like it starts out like the exact part 1 ending. But it did cut around a little bit. But I was just like, oh, that's kind of weird. I guess that's what they did back in the 80s. And that was part of the charm of it, Part 3 came out in 1982. And part 3, when it started, it was like a literal start to stop, 5 minutes from the previous one. So the first time it happened, I was like, wow, that's kind of long. And the second time it happened, it was the exact chunk, like not cut up at all. I was like, wow, that's real crazy. Like I was saying, Corey Feldman was in, I think, part 2 or part 3. I forget exactly. But he was so young in the movie. And at the very end, he was stabbing Jason. And he was saying, die, 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 while he was doing it. And all I can think of is, Goonies never say die, So I don't know if that's related or not in any kind of way. It could be totally not at all, but I noticed that and I thought it was funny. Also in the very first one, speaking of evolution, the very first one, you didn't really see him much. You just saw like his hands and his machete or pitchfork or whatever he had at the time. You didn't really see a lot of him. And then for part 2, you saw more of him, but he had a bag on his head, like a burlap sack over his head. And then somewhere either in 2 or for part 3, he switched to the hockey mask. So that was the evolution. That was his evolution. He evolved. And around the hockey mask, he used mainly a machete instead of a pitchfork or a knife or whatever. So that was worth pointing out. Also, I think it was part 3, they pushed him out of a barn and he landed on, like, I don't know, 20 spikes. And then in the next movie, his shirt had little spike holes all over it, and I was like, nice. That's a good little touch, little detail that needed to be added, and was. And then later on, he got cut in the shoulder, and the next one, he had a shoulder slice in his shirt. So I appreciate stuff like that. I'm sure a lot of people didn't notice some of it, but I did, and I do enjoy it. Okay, part 2, 3, 4, and 5 all had boobies in it also. Part 6 did not, and that's... So if you're going to skip one of them out of the whole series, skip 6. Literally, actually all of them do, but 6. And I was just thinking, like, people that like, horror, suspense movies, like that also. And that's just a good thing to pair up the two for a winning combination. Okay. Like I said, the cast changes drastically every time, which is fine. And the locations drastically change too. Like, after part 2, they weren't really at Camp Crystal Lake anymore. They would reference back to it a little bit or drive by it. But like the main location was like somewhere totally different. And really, the camp part of it kind of fell off a little bit, especially when they went to Manhattan. We'll get to that. Yeah, I was gonna take better notes, but I didn't. And then I was like, well, I'll just watch one more and then I'll film the video. I'll do like 2 or 3 parts, so each part's like covering only a few videos. And I just went ape shit and watched all of them except for the last one. Sorry, I'm a little sick right now, but I didn't want to not film this on this day because it is Friday the 13th. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and skip to 8. 8 is the Jason Takes Manhattan. Literally the first half, or a little bit more than half of the movie, was Jason on a boat. And I was like, the title is called Manhattan, Jason Takes Manhattan, but they're not in Manhattan, they're just on a boat going there. And then finally they got there and I was like, okay, they are in Manhattan, that's fine. And as like I said, as the series goes, the special effects ramp up, they get better and better. So the last one I saw was part 10. Now part 10 is not called Friday the 13th, this is called Jason, because it is drastically different, and I wanted to talk about this for a minute. It takes place in like outer space. Like, it starts off like in a cryogenic chamber. They're trying to freeze him because they can't kill him, he's too powerful. So they're just trying to freeze him forever, and of course he unfreezes and breaks out and it goes on a killing rampage. And they're just like in outer space in a spaceship all of a sudden. And there's a lot of CGI and a lot of, like, I'm not really a sci-fi fan, which is weird because a lot of people think I should be, myself included. I'm just not. And part 10 is very sci-fi-ish. Sci-fi, a lot of CGI. So if you're into that, you'll like it. That's probably the one that I won't watch again right away. But the rest of them do have a cohesive feel. Jason being the thing that brings them all together. Actually, aside from not seeing any of them, I have seen one of them, and that was Freddy vs. Jason. And that came out in 2003, and I saw it in the movie theater at the time. Doesn't mean I remember any of it, because I don't. But I just wanted to be transparent. That is the one that I have seen. That's the only one that I saw before this year. And I've been watching them over the span of probably 2 months, just because it's hard for me to stay awake during movies a lot of times. So, like I said, I have one left, and it is the 2009. Yes, sorry. There's a 2009 was the last one, as far as my records are concerned. And that's the one I'm going to try to watch tonight. And that one, I did skim through it real quick just to see, just to make sure I hadn't seen it yet. And it is kind of, it does go back to its roots, its camp roots. So I think a lot of people saw the spaceship one and were like, what? This isn't camp related, you know, but anyway, I really enjoyed watching the whole series, watching the progression of Jason himself, watching the progression of the movie franchise throughout the years. It was really interesting. I do recommend it. If you ever get a chance and want to watch them, go for it. Just remember part 2, bush to bush, back to back scene. It's good. And next I'm going to watch Nightmare on Elm Street. Hopefully I can, I think there's like 5 or 6 of those. I'm going to try to get through those before Halloween, which, you know, got half a month, so I should be able to. But I am going to be Jason for Halloween this year, so hope it's not too scary. Yeah, I'm loving having the screen behind me, behind the camera, so I can see. Okay, cool. Well, this is just kind of a spooky special I wanted to film. I know there's a whole lot I wanted to say. I think I said most of it. I guarantee I'm going to think of things that I missed as soon as I turn the camera off. But that's what happens every time. That's what I get for not writing stuff down. So, yep. Cool. Well, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.